I'm Thomas Hunt.
And I'm Pokey. Just Pokey.
And this is the Bad News Network. Last week, social media was not too happy with BNN and decided to throttle us. They did not like the way that we reported on a certain subject, even though we try to be as fair as we can here at BNN. So when social media decided to suppress us, that made us sad pandas. But like any true red-blooded Americans here at BNN, we are trying to find loopholes in the system. Our first topic today will be about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a wonderful time of year where we can spend quality time with family. Although this year, Thanksgiving might be a little different. I personally enjoy turkey the most, aside from family. I like mashed potatoes, and I love corn, and I also like yams, although I can never understand why we have to have marshmallows with the yams. I don't know who thought that one up. Stuffing is also a favorite of mine. I actually enjoy taking the giblets and the liver and putting it in the stuffing to go along with it. Cranberry sauce, I could take it or leave it. But really, in the end, family is what it's all about. So here, from all of us at BNN, we hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving and your plans aren't too screwed up with what is going on with COVID.
According to newly released satellite photos from the U.S. Naval Institute, North Korea is preparing dolphins for war. For war! They tried to copy us with the whole SEAL Team 6 thing and thought we used actual seals, so there was a little disconnect there. The images reveal what looks like a dolphin pen off the coast of a known military base. There was a dispute whether it was a dolphin pen or a fish farm for the local soldiers. The only issue with that is there's some size discrepancy between dolphins and fish. Either their fish are huge or their people are tiny as hell. Honestly, thinking about how often they launch shit into the ocean, it could just be some ginormous sea creature. In the 60s, the United States military trained dolphins to find explosives and fish out enemy swimmers. We were the first. The only other country that copied us? Russia, of course. I guess North Korea figured they'd give it a shot. They're a little late on the bandwagon, but what are you gonna do? They're like the Internet Explorer of countries.
This week, a family in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania was reunited with their cat that had been missing for 8 years. 8 years! Kristen Williams was looking through Facebook when she noticed a familiar cat that was looking to be put up for adoption. The cat looked terribly similar to her tortoiseshell cat, Snickerdoodle. Quick sidebar. Up to this point, I had no idea that cats had so many different breeds. Tortoiseshell, I mean, that sounds cool, but do you know what a tortoiseshell cat looks like? A regular ass cat. And not even really a tortoiseshell pattern, so that blows. You can tell dogs pretty easily, but cats, there's not that much difference. Either they are hairless, they have hair, and if they do have hair, maybe there's just a few different patterns, but that's about it. And honestly, I think cats should only exist on the internet. They seem to have found their place. Anyway, Kristen never stopped looking for Snickerdoodle after the cat went missing back in 2012. Snickerdoodle was so happy to be home. The first thing the cat did was chew up a dead bird on the carpet and knock some glasses off of the table. We are all glad to hear that Kristen and Snickerdoodle are back together again. I envy the love that Snickerdoodle and Kristen share now, and I'm glad that they're reunited. But I still would like to say that my favorite cat breed is a dog.
Not one, but 2 ginormous alligators were seen strolling through local neighborhoods in Florida this week. As a result of recent tropical weather, Florida is experiencing the highest water levels it's seen since 1962. Now, spotting an alligator in Florida is pretty easy. You have about the same chance of seeing a meth head run a go-kart mafia or a naked old lady accost someone at a gas station. But these look like they crawled straight out of the Jurassic period. These were no normal alligators. With the tropical weather season still in full swing, Floridians can expect to see even more of these amphibians and lizards crawling around their backyards. Parts of the Everglades National Park were closed to visitors, which also prompted these alligators to come take a look around. The alligators in these videos are huge. I encourage you to go over to your Google machine and type this in because they are ginormous and you should see them for yourself. But David Steen of the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission said there was nothing unusual about the size of these alligators, which is absolutely terrifying and just another reason to stay the fuck out of Florida.
On Sunday, a team of 4 astronauts boarded SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft and took off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The destination? The International Space Station. The crew flew through space for 27 hours until they were able to match the velocity of the International Space Station and make docking. NASA streamed the whole event, but to be honest, it was pretty lackluster. But that's mostly because both objects were trying to move at the exact same speed in order to dock. As the 2 objects were inching closer together, this just looked really boring to viewers at home. In actuality, both objects were flying at over 17,000 miles an hour, orbiting around the Earth. They do this so that they don't plummet through the Earth's atmosphere and burn up and die. So even though the whole event might have looked like a slow burn, it's actually pretty impressive the level of efficiency we've been able to do with space-age technology. After docking with the International Space Station, the 4 astronauts had to wait again for 2 hours in order to meet up with the rest of the team in the station. These checks were put in place to make sure that there was an airtight seal between the International Space Station and the shuttle itself. This meant that the crew of the Dragon spacecraft spent well over 30 hours inside the shuttle. Most Karens can't even fly 2 states over without bitching about how long it takes for people to board and get off the airplane. Even though the flight was long and the journey was perilous, the astronauts were thrilled to get on the spacecraft so they don't have to see the 2020 season finale.
On Tuesday, at least 1,700 new COVID-19 deaths were reported in the United States according to Johns Hopkins University. If this number is correct, this is the largest daily death toll since May 14th. You know, closer to the beginning of the pandemic when we didn't know what we were doing. So clearly we haven't learned much in the 6 to 8 months we've been hiding in our houses. And Jonathan Rayner, a professor from George Washington University, said things are only going to get worse. 2 to 3 weeks ago, we had between 70 and 80,000 new cases per day. But on Tuesday, there was about 155,000 new cases. So in theory, the death rate could double in about 2 to 3 weeks. But hey, don't point that finger just yet. 47 states reported at least 10% rise in COVID cases compared to this time last week. So clearly everyone's going in the wrong direction. Over 250,000 people have died in the United States since the first death recorded back in February. At this current rate, 1 American is dying every minute from COVID. As the infection and death rate rise, schools and universities are making tough decisions on what to do with their students. Some schools in New York are closing down again, while a college in Boston is giving their kids choice to either go home and spend the holidays with their family and do online learning the rest of the year, or stay on campus, party with their friends, do drugs, have sex, and miss class. I wonder what they're gonna choose. We have been at this for a long time now. At this point, we're pretty much beating a dead horse. I would tell people to wear masks, but they won't. I would tell people to be socially distant and think before they went to large parties, but they're still gonna go. COVID has been kicking our ass for almost a year, and there is no end in sight. Also, reports show that the first COVID case can be traced back to November 17, 2019. Happy birthday, COVID. Sorry your party sucks.
A 12-year-old was arrested this week for reporting in on a fake shooting. This is also called swatting. The Santa Rosa police got a call from a little boy that said that his mother had shot his father in the head. The child then reported that his mom still had the weapon, but he was able to find a hiding spot in the bathroom of his apartment. Because of the severity of the assumed crime, 15 SWAT members descended on the apartment immediately. When SWAT made entry into the scene, they were unable to find the kid that said he was there. Seeing that there was a heavily armored SWAT team outside of his door, the actual person who lived in the apartment decided to come out and ask what the hell was going on. It took the SWAT team about 45 minutes to realize that the call was a hoax and to apprehend the suspect who called in the report. A lot of times these kind of swatting jokes end up with people dying. You know, some kid ends up being called a on Call of Duty. A bunch of kids tell him that they're gonna bang his mom, so he makes a quick call to the local authorities, lies, and gets a bunch of people killed. Look kids, there's no reason to get people hurt over a video game. Just do a few extra push-ups every time they beat you at the video game, and eventually you'll be so strong you can beat them up yourselves. Way more rewarding. You can also use some of my patented one-liners on them. Douchebagette. Wankenstein. Piss wizard. Goblin.
Man, People are getting really inventive in the dark days of quarantine. A suspect in a $35 million Ponzi scheme used an underwater scooter to escape from FBI agents. 44-year-old Matthew Piercy was indicted on running an alleged Ponzi scheme through his company Family Wealth Legacy. He allegedly used investor money to buy his homes and pay off a lot of his credit card debt. After a year of pursuing Percy, the FBI was ready to close in. But Percy wasn't going down that easy. After leading agents on a chase through local neighborhoods and highways, a helicopter monitored Percy entering the lake with his sea scooter. Like a C-list Aquaman villain, Percy submerged himself in the waters of Lake Shasta for about 25 minutes until he was caught by police. I know what you're thinking. Man, with such a foolproof plan, how did he fail? Well, apparently Piercy's plan ended with take the sea scooter into the lake. Even though he was submerged underwater, the FBI agents just watched where his air bubbles came up and waited till he came up for air and caught him. I mean, how could you not finish the plan? Buy a sea scooter, run from police, use sea scooter. You were so close. Have some imagination, man. Look, man, there wasn't like a secret hatch to a base or a duct you could have went into a safe house. You gotta have planning, my man. Well, it looks like old Piercy's about to make a splash in prison. He's been charged with fraud, money laundering, and witness tampering.
2020 could not slow down even if it wanted to. As we begin to approach the final stretch of 2020, it appears some killer whales have gone rogue off of the coast of Europe. In one of 40 similar incidents, yes, 40, killer whales have come up to boats and started ramming the underside of them. One of these boats was a 50-foot yacht from Portugal. It gets worse, as it always does. They began to target the rudder of the boat. You know, that important part that lets you steer the thing. The attack lasted for over 2 hours before the pod decided that they were bored and it wasn't worth the effort. Then this killer pod of killer whales literally vanished. Some scientists think that these orcas have been targeting these ships because these ships are fishing for their natural prey in the area. If orcas can attack great white sharks, I wouldn't be surprised if they can also attack and be successful sinking fishing craft. Could we be very close to going to war with these giant underwater mammals? We can look to Australia to see how they did with their emus. Let's just hope North Korea is not involved in this as well.
And finally in Florida Man news, Florida man decided he wanted to take a trip this week. But not a normal trip like on a boat or an airplane, more of a psychedelic trip on LSD. And go to the happiest place on earth, Disney World. I know the first thing I like to do when I trip on LSD is head to a crowded place full of screaming children, overpriced hospital food, and a Small World played on repeat 1,000 times. James Arvid, a 19-year-old from Pompano Beach, is facing a felony charge for attacking a Dino Land USA employee. He tackled a 41-year-old uniformed employee and put him in a headlock. The original article I read said that he attacked him from behind, which made me feel like he had diabolical intentions. The guard called for help on his radio, but onlookers quickly helped him subdue Arvid. When police arrived, they said Arvid was sweating, bloody, kicking his legs, and not listening to any of their commands. So he looked like any 6-year-old at Magic Kingdom who wasn't allowed to get another $47 Mickey hat. At the hospital, Arvid was feeling pretty confident and told one of the nurses that he took LSD and tried to kill someone, to which the nurse replied, "No shit, Sherlock." Look, we're just glad no one got hurt. Florida men, they get high. What are you gonna do? Sometimes they never land. Maybe he just wanted to see a whole new world.
Who told you that you could do Florida Man, Pokey? I start, so I close. That's how it goes. F***ing amateur. And finally, in Florida Man news, better than Alex Pokey's Florida Man news, a Florida man was arrested for accidentally stealing a giant fucking light pole. You know, those huge metal poles that hold up traffic lights on the street? Authorities were notified of the incident when another driver noticed that the pole went missing. Police were able to find Florida Man quickly because he had a giant fucking light pole sticking off of the top of his car. Seriously, the pole was twice as long as his vehicle. This is Florida Man, alright. Clearly he was not thinking ahead. Do you think at one point he just saw that pole and said, you know what I could really use? A giant fucking light pole. I could really use that. Let me invest some time and energy into the correct strategy to get what I want. Step 1, buy a truck. Step 2, none of that. When arrested, Florida Man said that he was planning on taking the pole and selling it for scrap, and had no idea that he couldn't do that. That's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. Regardless of what he gets charged with, I'm just impressed this 71-year-old Florida man was able to get a giant fucking light pole on top of his vehicle. If I had to guess what concoction gave him that giant superhuman strength, it's probably that sunshine favorite, meth. You thought I was gonna say orange juice, didn't you? Nah, it's always meth. And with that, I'm Thomas Hunt.
And I'm Pokey.
And this is the Bad News Network. Our news is at least as bad as the news you're getting already, and I just want to make sure that you guys understand that Thanksgiving is around the corner, but 2020 isn't over yet, so buckle up, people. As always, you can use the code BNN to get 25% off your order at rangerup.com. Have a great weekend.